2 days ago, I asked you guys if you would like to see me try Otzdarva's Killer Challenge. If you're unfamiliar with Otzdarva's Killer Challenge, essentially Otzdarva attempted to do all killers with no perks or add-ons and give a 30-second AFK head start to the survivors to essentially prove that you could still get a good amount of kills if you play really sweaty, to sort of show that the game isn't as survivor-sided as people might think it is. There have been a few different creators that have been trying this challenge just to see how well they can do, and Otzdarva himself shared on his Twitter some of the results. Even True Talent tried this challenge. His average was a bit low, and I did see some people roasting him online for that on Twitter and whatnot, but you have to keep in mind, True Talent is not one to camp or tunnel. I believe he did avoid doing so in his version, so I'm sure if True Talent had been tunneling and camping, he probably would have gotten some better results. But based on these numbers and knowing that I myself am not really that great of a player, especially with a lot of certain killers, there's some killers I'm better with and some I'm not great with, and seeing these numbers, I thought, at best I could probably do a 2 to 2.5 average. I think Otz himself got a 3.1 doing this version of the challenge with no perks and the head start. So I think it was a 3.1 kill average. I did this challenge last night. There were some ups. All right, I get 3, fuck it. Maybe 4? No, I don't know where she went. Let's fucking go! You're so predictable. You're so predictable. Okay, pretty solid start. And there were certainly some downs. Oh my god. Okay. GG. Yeah. I fucked up really bad. You gotta be shitting me, dude. You've got to be. I mean, you just. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. And maybe a hint of salt.
Like, what? And you're playing like this? The fuck? You're verified playing like this. No fucking way. This guy's a loser.
But by the end, these were my results. The amount of 0Ks I got were 3, with Hag, Deathslinger, and Twins. 1Ks, I got 1, with Hillbilly. 2Ks, I got 2, with Pig and Trapper. 3Ks, I got 7, with Nurse, Huntress, Myers, Doc, Plague, Demo, and Blight. 4Ks, I got 13, with Wraith, Bubba, Freddy, Clown, Spirit, Legion, Ghostface, Oni, Pyramid Head, Trickster, Nemesis, Pinhead, and the Artist. Now, all of this together brought my average kills per match to an even 3 kills. I'm not gonna lie, I was very shocked to have scored so high. But at the same time, this challenge has proven something that I've, been talking about for a long time, and it's almost sort of the core of what my channel has been about all these years. And that is that tunneling, camping, and slugging are so incredibly viable. And to any of you who say that they are not legitimate strategies, you are just mega salty and don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yes, you can be frustrated by them. You can be annoyed. That's perfectly normal. Nobody likes to lose. I totally get that. But for people to say that they're not viable strategies, it's just proven wrong again and again and again. When you tunnel and when you camp specifically, that triggers something in a lot of survivors to get off of gens and swarm hooks, body block. It's like they just completely stop doing the main objective, which is huge for you as killer. I genuinely believe that if every survivor would just let one person that has DS get tunneled out, that there would have been a lot more 1Ks. And I totally understand wanting to save your friend. I jump into chases. I get off gens to help teammates who are getting tunneled and stuff like that. Just to try to help out. So I totally get that. And I know it's not fun sitting on gens. It's better to try to get in and help your team. Even if you don't end up escaping, it's more fun to play that way and try to get in there and help out. But yeah, altruism was the true killer. Another big thing this proved for me that I've also been preaching for quite a while now is that this game does not revolve around skill, and therefore, in my opinion, it is not at its core a competitive game. Now, anytime I say that Dead by Daylight's not a competitive game, people lose their minds, they get offended for some reason, like I'm taking shots at the competitive scene or people who do tournaments. That's not the case at all. I'm talking about Dead by Daylight at its core, just your run of the mill matches. I'm not talking about custom tournaments with custom rules, all that stuff. I'm saying at its core, I don't believe at all that it's a competitive game. I feel like to be a competitive game, at the very least, the determining factor for which side wins should be the player's skill. And with Dead by Daylight, it's just not the case. It has to do with RNG, and in every aspect, it's RNG, basically. I mean, obviously, there's certain things that take skill, running tiles a certain way, knowing as killer where to pressure gens, knowing as survivor how not to 3-gen. There's these little things here and there that you have to know. You have to have game knowledge, you have to have experience. But you can easily win on either side without using skill at all. You can bring just overpowered add-ons, perks, items. You can just play in certain ways that don't require skill. I mean, like I said, I get a ton of 3Ks and 4Ks playing Basement Bubba where I'm standing still for 80% of the match. Now, I just don't see how at its core you could consider that a competitive game. Now, this has nothing to do with how people play. You can play sweaty, play competitively, you can have a competitive attitude or be a competitive person, but it's still like it's just that like, you don't have any skill. You just play with no skill. Yeah, you don't need skill to win in this game on either side. You need to have experience. You need to have at least a little bit of game knowledge, map awareness. You don't need a ton of skill to win in this game. And honestly, I think that me getting a 3-kill average is the biggest testament to that, because many of you, especially my hate watchers, know that I'm not that great of a killer. You know this, and I admit it all the time. I never claimed to be a good player. I would say with certain killers, maybe 2 or 3 killers, I'm above average because of the amount of time I've put into those killers. But this is me playing every killer with no perks or add-ons, with that 30-second AFK, and I still averaged 3 kills because of camping, tunneling, slugging. You know, it has nothing to do with skill. Maybe a little bit, but not a lot. I could tell during a lot of the chases, like chasing the survivors, I'm thinking, wow, these players are way better than me. They probably have a lot more hours than I do. And in the end, I still won. You know? Not because of skill, but just because of particular playstyle or because of mistakes, altruism. In terms of the whole survivor-sided, argument, I've always said, at least more recently over the last year or so, I've come to the conclusion, my own conclusion, that the game is survivor-sided at the very highest level. Like if you're playing against a god, I think a god Survive with Friends team versus one god killer, I think the survivors have the advantage. I think most people know that. But I think that most of us can admit that we're not going against that god Swift every game. I know I certainly am not. I will say that killer is, in my opinion, much more stressful in general than survivor. I think that it definitely takes a lot more mental energy to play as killer and to win, especially when you get to the higher level. You kind of have to sweat your ass off, whereas survivor, not so much. I think this does prove that you can just play a certain way, even with all these handicaps and disadvantages. If you play a certain way, if most of your games are winnable, most of them. So if you're out there thinking this is impossible because I'm not nearly as good as Otzdarva because he's insane, I'm nowhere near as good as Otzdarva, not even close, and I still got a 3-kill average. He got a 3.1, so I'm right behind him. Not because I'm even close to as good as him, just because of camping, tunneling, slugging, They are powerful strategies. You should use them. You are not toxic. You are not a bad person. You are not malicious. You are not a psychopath. All of these things that all of these really sensitive, emotional people want to throw in your face for using these tactics in order to win, none of it's true. They are viable strategies, as proven again and again and again, and you should use them. Just like, in my opinion, as Survivor, you should rush the shit out of gens. You should bring Dead Hard, and you should bring DS. You should bring Borrowed Time. You should do all of these things if you want to win. Because one thing I can tell you is if every single team that I went against, if everybody was running DS, I would have lost way more of my games. I truly don't believe that this game is as unbalanced as everybody makes it out to be, but I do still believe, as I said earlier, that the killer experience overall is just not as fun as the Survivor experience. And again, this is my opinion. I just think that Survivor I can play while eating food, I can play while watching YouTube, I can, and you know, it's way more chill and laid back for me. Killer, when you get towards the higher MMR, and you're playing against good players, and again, I'm not saying MMR equates to skill because it doesn't. Because it doesn't. You know, that's the thing too, is MMR doesn't judge how well you do in chase. It doesn't judge, you know, how well you loop, whether it's killer or survivor. It judges escapes and it judges kills. So I could have incredibly high MMR being a basement Bubba who just stands still, and that Claudette who hides in the bush all game and gets hatch every game can have higher MMR than all the god loopers who end up dying because they tried to save their team. So MMR doesn't equate to skill. I feel like most people know that. They should. But obviously the high MMR, you're more likely to go against more skilled players, or at least better players than low MMR. I mean, there's at least that little bit, but it doesn't mean that high MMR is filled with just god survivors or god killers. But yeah, I think that killer is just more stressful. I think that's people are just more stressed out playing killer, and I think maybe that makes people say, "God, this game is so survivor sided," just because they feel so stressed out. Instead of, you know, the more laid backness of playing survivor. I don't know. Or maybe they're not willing to camp and tunnel and slug, and they lose more of their games because they're not, you know, they don't want to use those tactics, which if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. But I mean, they're tactics. And if you do want to win, if you don't want this to be a survivor-sided game, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. Anyways, guys, I had fun doing this challenge. Let me know if you want me to upload the whole every game. I can do that. I can cut it together, cut all the in-between matches out, and just flow every game into one another. If you want me to post that on YouTube, I can. I thought about it. Just for those interested in watching the games, you can watch how badly I played in a lot of them, but still won. Yeah, it was a lot of fun and a little bit stressful here and there, but mostly fun. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.